points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve Postgame Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Well, the Jets didn't make it easy, but they win for the 55th time this year. That's a big number. And the Winnipeg Jets clinch the Central Division and the Western Conference and move closer to clinching the President's Trophy. Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for everybody listening on YouTube and our social media platforms, welcome to the Illegal Curve Postgame Show. I'm Ezra Ginsburg with Connor Harabchek, Drew Mandel, and Dave Manouk are attending their Passover Seders. So we wish a happy Passover to all those who celebrate. But Connor, let's get right into it here. What a game. It definitely started off pretty poorly for the Winnipeg Jets, giving up a couple goals to the Chicago Blackhawks, but they come back, they tie it up, they go ahead. The Blackhawks tie it up, then they go ahead. Then Josh Morrissey scores, ties it up again. And then we have a very exciting overtime. And then the Jets win it in a shootout. But really, all that matters is the Jets have clinched the Central Division and they clinch the Western Conference for the first time ever in Jets 1.0 or 2.0 history.
Yeah, what a game. And like you said, that's all that really mattered, right? They got the game to overtime and they win the Central Division. And the Winnipeg Jets have their first ever Central Division title. But yeah, this game, unbelievable, just like a roller coaster from start to finish. You mentioned the first period, how weird that was, Chicago getting out to a 2-0 lead, and then as soon as the Jets kind of scored 3 straight, went up 3-2, you thought that would be the Jets would just shut it down from that point forward. Connor Hellebuck, how many times have we just seen him shut down games? Chicago then gets the next 2. Josh Morrissey scores late. This game had it all, and I'm excited to be here and break it all down.
Absolutely. And, the Jets were obviously down a couple goals, as we've already mentioned. And, Connor Hellebuck, even though he allows 4 goals and it wasn't his best night, no pun intended, with Spencer Knight in net for the Hawks, but he made several big saves early in the in the second period. Ilya Mikheyev had that scoring chance about a minute in. And then a couple minutes later, Frank Nazar and Hellebuck came up with a huge save. Yeah. And obviously that allowed the Jets to get back into the game. Nino Niederreiter obviously opened up the scoring for the Jets. We'll get into that in the Play Now game recap. But yeah, it was kind of a game where you're looking at this. We obviously knew the Blackhawks are one of the worst teams in the league, but you're thinking to yourself, like, what should we expect in this game? The Jets obviously need a point, so they're going to ice their top lineup, but you really weren't sure what to expect coming off of one of the biggest games of the year, if not the biggest games of the year, that huge win over the Dallas Stars. Mm-hmm. And give Chicago credit. They came to play tonight. We should mention, Pat Maroon, Alex Martinez playing in their final games in the NHL. 6 Stanley Cups between those two guys. By the way, just awesome to see Patrick Maroon out there on the power play in the third period, taking an old school slapper. Like, Patrick Maroon obviously has never been one of the faster guys in the NHL, and he definitely is one of the slower guys in the NHL now. And, just great to see him out there, an excellent career. And look, Chicago has a lot of good young players on their team, but I mean, this is a team that's a few years away from being a few years away, right, Connor? Yeah. But yeah, give the Jets credit for sticking with it. And Josh Morrissey, I thought he was having a good game before he scored the 2 goals, and we shouldn't be surprised because he's done this so many times over the years. But he was obviously a beast out there tonight, out there in overtime. He deserves a lot of credit for his play, putting the team on his back as he has done so many times before. And obviously got to give a shout out to Cole Perfetti, scores a shootout winner in his first ever shootout attempt. And we shouldn't be surprised. He's called Goal Perfetti for a reason, right, Connor?
Well, that was his first shootout attempt. Like, I think it's downhill from here. That was nasty. That was unbelievable, that shootout goal from Cole Perfetti. But yeah, I could not agree with you more on Josh Morrissey. This was one of those games where he was not going to let the Winnipeg Jets lose. He was all over the ice, making plays. He even ate a high stick to the chin that went uncalled in the third period.
Not sure why that wasn't called, by the way. That was a high stick. It wasn't his stick.
It was very clearly a high stick to Josh Morrissey's face. But yeah, and then the shift leading up to Morrissey's goal that tied it 4-4. I mean, the entire top line and top defense pair deserve a ton of credit. They were in the zone for like a minute and a half, just cycling around. Chicago could not. They had a chance to chip the puck out a few times, but they were able to keep it in. And then Josh Morrissey, the instincts to jump behind the Chicago defender who's pinching up at the blue line, and then the snipe as well. He's a superstar. We know this from Josh Morrissey, and this was one of those nights where you're reminded of it.
And Connor, we haven't even mentioned the Nikolai Ehlers injury yet. We'll get into it, and
the vibes are high. Let's keep it high.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't mention it right off the top, because obviously it's a scary situation, right? He collides with the linesman in the second period. I believe the Jets were up 2-1 at that. Pardon me, the Jets were down 2-1 at that point, if I'm not mistaken. Right before the Jets tied it up, and it's a thing where we don't know yet what the extent of the injury is. All we do know is Ehlers left the game, never came back. Mike McIntyre is on the road. He's in Chicago at United Center. So I'll keep my eye on X and see if Mike McIntyre has any update. I don't know if we will have any update, to be honest with you, Connor. Like, I don't think the Jets are going to say anything either way, positive or negative, but kind of what was your overall kind of thoughts on that before we get into the play now game recap? What were your thoughts on that? Because I know a lot of people were making jokes and on social media, but to me, that was just a freak accident.
It's a fluke play. And yeah, it sucks. There's a week until the playoffs. The playoffs start April 19th. So this is not what you want to see. But yeah, hopefully that this was, Nikolai Ehlers maybe being bruised and a little hurt in the moment. And then from that point forward, it was just precautionary that he didn't come back, because again, with a week until the playoffs, if a guy needs to get helped off of the ice, he's done for the night. He's not coming back, even if they go to the room and Nikolai Ehlers is 100% fine, they're not going to send him back out there. Like, it's precautionary. Just hold him out. I think that would be the best case scenario, is if Scott O'Neill comes up to the post-game press conference here and says, yeah, it looks like he's going to be all right. It was just kind of precautionary that we held him out, and we'll see going forward. But yeah, obviously hoping for the best case scenario there. We know how important Nikolai Ehlers is to this team. And with 1 week until the playoffs, you do not want to see him being helped off of the ice. That is for sure. No,
they're already down a top six forward, a top three forward with Gabe Vilardi out of the lineup, and obviously, we're hopeful that he's going to be able to play for game one of the first round. But you're absolutely right. Ehlers would be one of those players, one of the most impactful players on the Jets.
Totally.
And as you say, best case scenario is Scott O'Neill gives us some positive news and says that it's not looking too bad, and Ehlers is only going to be out a game, or maybe he's not even going to be out a game. Maybe he somehow manages to play against Edmonton at Winnipeg. But I think you'd agree, Connor. We had a comment up in the chat. I'm not sure if I posted it. I forget, but trying to host and post comments at the same time. It's not as easy as it looks, right? I know that you host Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live. So
I get what you're saying.
That's why you have Liz and Jay. I'm not sure how many comments you guys post, but.
We try and post a lot, but when I'm talking, it doesn't. It's the exact same thing. Yeah.
I gotta focus, stick to the task, right?
Yes,
but,
exactly.
So just to close off that thought about Ehlers, hopefully, we're going to see something from Mike McIntyre, who I mentioned is in Chicago. But regardless, it was a scary situation. You never want to see a player helped off the ice. He was helped off by Appleton and Lowry, of course. And then he didn't come back for the rest of the second period or the third period. But we're focused on the Winnipeg Jets winning the game tonight. They already had the West and the Central Division clinched, but via the point going into overtime. But it's always nice to get that bonus point in the shootout, as we mentioned, Cole Perfetti. And right before we went live, we were talking about how both of us don't really like the shootout here. And I mentioned to you, even though I don't like the shootout, and Kyle Connor's goal wasn't the winning shootout goal, it was the tying shootout goal. But man, oh man, like I said to you, like that reminds me of something like Pavel Datsyuk would have done back in the day for the Detroit Red Wings. But
same with Perfetti.
Absolutely. Perfetti's move was the same thing. I think at first you looked at it, you didn't really notice the genius of it. But obviously, Perfetti is a guy who has the ability one-on-one he has some sick mitts. So it was a nice way to end the game. And the Winnipeg Jets now, the only thing they need to do is clinch the President's Trophy. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if they win against Edmonton clean, then they'll get it, because they're up 5 points on Washington for the President's Trophy. Washington has 3 games left, and Winnipeg has 2 games left, of course. So if the Jets were able to get the clean 2 points, or 2 points period, they will get the President's Trophy, which again would be the first time in franchise history that the Jets would win the President's Trophy. So at the very least, they get home ice advantage for the first 3 rounds, Connor, which is obviously, what the goal in tonight's game was, to just come out with at least a point.
Yeah, and they'd be the first Canadian team to win the President's Trophy since the Vancouver Canucks did it in 2010, 2011. So that would be an incredible accomplishment for this team. And you talk about a President's Trophy curse. I don't believe in it. I don't know if people in chat believe in it. I don't buy it. You try and be the best team night in and night out. You try and win games, and if you're better than everyone else and finish first, that should be rewarded. That's something to hang your hat on, is a President's Trophy. And look, winning home ice advantage for the entire Western Conference playoffs is huge. We know how, you can see my green screen behind me here, the Winnipeg Whiteout. We know how crazy this building gets in the postseason. And to make it so that the West runs through Winnipeg is huge. And obviously, getting the 1 seed secures the fact that you're going to be playing a wild card opponent as well. We don't know if that'll be Minnesota or St. Louis. Calgary's even kind of still in it to maybe make a play for one of those 2 seeds. But yeah, this is winning their first ever Central Division title. What a special season from the Winnipeg Jets. This has been such a ride this year. It's been incredible.
It really has. And I don't know, I'm not sure what happened to the Washington Capitals this afternoon. I didn't watch it. I just looked at the score. I didn't even look at the box score to see who got the goals for the Blue Jackets. But obviously the Caps weren't interested in playing this afternoon. They don't like afternoon games. I don't know what it is. But by not obtaining a single point, as we talked about, the Winnipeg Jets are now 5 points clear of the Washington Capitals. The Capitals, as we mentioned, have a game in hand, but the Jets are well on their way, as you just mentioned, to claiming the first ever President's Trophy for Winnipeg, and the first time since it was 2010-11, you mentioned. So 15 years for a Canadian team, so not bad. Okay, Connor, let's get into the Play Now game recap right now.
The Play Now game recap.
The Play Now game recap is obviously brought to you by our friends at Play Now. Learn to bet with Play Now, the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Sign up and get up to $250 in bonus bets. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Please enjoy responsibly. As we talked about, it wasn't the best start for the Jets. I mean, the Jets actually, had some scoring chances earlier in the game, early in the first period. They just weren't rewarded. I think it was, the shots were 4-0 or 5-0, if I'm not mistaken. But the Chicago Blackhawks open up the scoring in a very ugly way. Obviously, Connor Hellebuyck with a free pizza to Nick Foligno. And that was right before, well, not right before Connor, but he also almost coughed up the puck to Frank Nazar. Nazar just couldn't get a hold of it and get a scoring opportunity. We should mention, obviously, that the Jets were on the power play at this time. It was, who was it? It was Joe Veleno, who was in the penalty box for tripping at this point. And the Winnipeg Jets were getting things set up in the offensive zone, trying to create some offense on the power play. The puck comes back, and it's Kyle Connor and it's Connor Hellebuyck. And I want to get your take, but it almost seemed like, Connor Hellebuyck should have just let Connor play the puck there. Like it seemed like, even though Kyle Connor might have had trouble with Nick Foligno there, by coming out as far as Hellebuyck did, and by putting himself in, he put himself in an awkward situation where now he's kind of blocking Kyle Connor, and then obviously Nick Foligno puts it into the between the legs of Hellebuyck as he's trying to get back into his own net. But just an ugly goal, and that was the first shot on net. I was texting you. I was like, "What the hell is going on here?" Chicago looks awful, and then all of a sudden they score on their first shot of the game. Just a comedy of errors there on the Jets power play.
Just wild stuff. Yeah, I mean, we're all watching the game thinking, oh, this is a pretty good start for the Jets. Like you said, the shots on goal were 4 or 5-0, and they're getting a power play. It's like, okay, so there's no letdown from the Dallas game, right? That's always what you're scared of, is like they come off this huge emotional win, and then there's a big letdown against the Hawks. And it's like the first 5 minutes, you're like, okay, they look pretty good. I'm 100% with you on this goal. Kyle Connor had it. If you even watch the replay, Kyle Connor slows up because he almost has to like get out of the way, because he's like, oh, Connor Hellebuyck's here. Like Kyle Connor would have been able to skate into this puck, no problem. At worst, the Chicago player is stick checking Kyle Connor, or he gets to the puck and Kyle Connor's right there to play defense. So the first time that Connor Hellebuyck came out, I think that one was more warranted for him to actually come out and try and shoot the puck away because Chicago would have gotten to that one. This one, I think Connor Hellebuyck, maybe it was just in his mind because he just did it. But I think Kyle Connor had this puck. And look, Connor Hellebuyck has gotten so much better at playing the puck over the years. He's gotten miles better from where he was 4 or 5 years ago. But then you see plays like this where the flashes come back, where he's skating, like he's on full stride and he goes to whack it with his backhand and just doesn't get enough on it. But yeah, this is definitely just one of those fluky goals where I think Kyle Connor has this if Connor Hellebuyck leaves it.
Yeah, and we should give Connor credit. He does his best to try to stop it there, but obviously he doesn't have any goalie pad, so Foligno just kind of puts a nice shot on net. And we've got the comment up there from K-Thor27, like that looked like the Hellebuyck of old. I agree with you, Connor. Hellebuyck has improved, and we know that's something he works on. He's talked about that with the media. He's still not he's not Jordan Bennington. He's not. We just saw Joel Hofer, who likes to play the puck. Like, we know that Hellebuyck doesn't play the puck as well as other goaltenders across the league. But like you said, hopefully that's a teachable moment, right? Hopefully, next time there's a situation like that, maybe a 50-50 situation, maybe he just backs off a little bit and he lets Connor. I don't think that's a communication issue. I just think it was one of those plays where, Hellebuyck knew that he had to come out to support Connor. He just made Kyle Connor. With you on the show, Connor, I have to make sure that people know which Connor I'm talking about here. But just an unfortunate goal to give up for the Jets, who obviously were on the power play and who had been the better team up until that point. They weren't dominant. I didn't think the Jets had a dominant first period, but they were clearly the better team. And, Chicago will get into, all the first round picks. I was keeping note of all the first round picks because I don't think, look, let's be honest, Sam Rinzel is not a household name. He's a 2022 late first round pick. But, he was out there in overtime looking really impressive. Obviously, Connor Bedard, everybody knows that's a household name, even though, people forget he's only 19 years old. It's only his second year in the league, right? But, you had Frank Nazar out there, who we've already talked about, Artem Lashunov. We had Oliver Moore, who I thought looked really impressive. And Spencer Knight himself, he's a first-round pick, 13th overall by the Florida Panthers, right? So, you can see that the future is on display for the Chicago Blackhawks. As we talked about, they're not going to be a team that anybody's expecting to do anything, making the playoffs or anything like that. But let's get into the next goal, because obviously the Jets take a penalty there and the Chicago Blackhawks go on the power play. It is Jared Anderson-Dolan, who's been playing some really good hockey. There's a chance that when Gabe Vilardi comes back, obviously Jared Anderson-Dolan will be out of the lineup, but should mention, good on him, picked up an assist against the Dallas Stars. He's been really impressive in his 5 games with the Jets after being called up from the Moose. And obviously, Connor, before we get into Chicago's second goal, that's another storyline going into tomorrow's game against the Oilers, right? I think we're expecting there to be some possibly some Moose players in the lineup. If not against Edmonton, for sure against Anaheim. We'll wait and see. The only thing, just as an aside, sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place. But as you know, if you've ever seen us on IC, which I know you have, I am tending to go all over the place. So it's a beautiful mind, Connor. That's what it is. But what are your thoughts on tomorrow? Because the Jets still haven't clinched the President's Trophy. So, there is something on the line. So what do you see happening? I know Dave Minuk earlier today on the show said that he expects as many as 4 or 5 Moose guys to play at some point in these last 2 games. But what do you see happening tomorrow against Edmonton?
I don't know. I think tomorrow is going to be a major rest game for some of the Jets star players. Obviously, Connor Hellebuyck won't play because he played tonight. So you'll see Eric Comrie in the net.
Yep.
But
new dad, Eric Comrie.
New dad, Eric Comrie. Yep. Yes, congratulations to the Comrie family. I will say also, I think it was Mike McIntyre brought up an interesting point. Like, if they rest everyone for Sunday's game tomorrow and then they rest everyone Wednesday, that is a full week without playing for some of these players.
Right.
So how will they manage that? It's going to be really interesting to see how they do manage that, and whether or not tomorrow's maybe a rest game and then some of the players get back into the lineup Wednesday, or if they rest, each player is going to rest one of these games and they just have to decide which one. But it's going to be interesting because they only have one game after tomorrow between, they have like a full week and one game before the playoffs. So how they have to manage that rest is going to be interesting. I don't think that they're going to play everyone tomorrow because they need the President's Trophy. Like, I think they've gotten home ice through the West now. Now it's time to rest players. And the President's Trophy, obviously, like I said off the top, would be an incredible accomplishment, but they're not pushing for it, I don't think, by playing everyone in these last 2 games. But yeah, I think maybe you'll see a split of lineups here. You'll see like 4 or 5 Moose guys come in tomorrow, and then 4 or 5 Moose guys play Wednesday as well, with different players resting for the Jets.
Yeah, it's almost like it's the same type of situation you would see in the preseason, right? Like it's giving the guys a rest, but letting them have that game against Anaheim. So like you said, they're not off for a full week, because as Huss tweeted earlier today, and obviously Huss is the Jets insider, he thinks that it's going to be Saturday, a week from today, when the first round starts. There's been some
concert, but he thinks it's going to get moved.
Yes, apparently they can. I mean, also, how funny is it that it's Bachman Turner Overdrive that's the band, right? Taking care of business.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny, but I'm sure that band would be okay with being bumped. I'm sure logistically it's probably a little difficult to move a concert at the last minute, but if it's for game 1 of round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I think we'll be okay with that if you're Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Whose idea was that? We've known that the playoffs are April 19th for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Like, why couldn't they book that concert a week earlier or something, right? Like,
I don't think this building will be used on this day. What?
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I thought of that as well. I was thinking, like, why was there, like, there shouldn't have been any concerts booked basically like after like April 15th or something like that, right? But we'll see what happens. We know that the playoffs are, if they don't start Saturday, there's a good chance the Jets will play on the Sunday, right? Yeah. So let's get back to the second goal, though. We talked about it. Obviously, it's a power play goal by Connor Bedard. The Hawks had some pressure. We mentioned it was Anderson Dolan in net. Connor Hellebuyck, he played this a little bit awkwardly to me. Like, it was obviously a nice shot by Connor Bedard, but it just seemed like, he's moving left to right, and he gets a piece of it. But just like, what I thought about this goal was it's just a world-class shot by Bedard, who didn't even put everything on it. Like, it was kind of a bit of a change up. But obviously at that point, the Hawks are up 2-0 on their first 3 shots of the game.
Yeah. And you don't even hate how the Jets have played up until this point, or at least I didn't. But yeah, obviously the penalty, Chicago's power play, they have a very clear plan when they are on their power play, and it's get Connor Bedard the puck. The power plays that they had all night, they were force feeding him at the left circle. And on this one, there was a bit of a breakdown. Connor Bedard is left wide open. He definitely had time to take this puck closer to the net and like receive it and even get closer to the net, but elected for the one-timer, went 5-hole on Hellebuyck. Really nice shot. Connor Bedard, get this man some help on the Chicago Blackhawks, because there are so many flashes. Well, actually, they're in division, so maybe don't get him any help. But yeah, I think he's such a talented player, and you see so many flashes night in and night out, and then pucks will just die on his teammate's stick. And then you see goals like this one, and you're reminded why everyone thinks he's going to be a superstar. I don't think he's a star or a superstar yet, but 4 or 5 years from now, he's going to be scoring a ton of goals once he gets some help there in Chicago.
I remember prior to the 2023 draft, and I don't think I was the only one, I just kept thinking any team but Chicago. Yeah. Like, I just wanted him to go to any team but the Blackhawks. And obviously the Blackhawks got the first overall pick, winning the draft lottery. And I agree with you. I mean, there's going to be some lean years in Chicago. Like, I really, even with all of the first round picks that we talked about, like Nazar and Lev Shunov and Oliver Moore and Rinzel, and I mean, the list goes on. Kevin Kurchinski is another guy. What was he, 2022 first rounder? Yeah. He's, I believe, still playing in Rockford if he's not injured. So he's another guy, a big part of the defense. So they're going to be better in 3 or 4 years, but that's 3 or 4 years, right? Yeah. So Chicago Blackhawks fans are not going to have a lot to cheer about, but let's continue on here. Obviously, the Winnipeg Jets are down 2-0. I wanted to also mention Connor Murphy had the breakaway with 3 minutes left in the first period. Connor Hellebuyck made a good save there.
Another Connor.
Wasn't the hardest save. But yeah, exactly. There's so many Connors. It's like I'm seeing Connors everywhere. Like, I'm seeing Connors in my sleep. But yeah, so the Jets are down 2-0 after the first period, even though they badly outplayed the Blackhawks, whether it was the possession or shot attempts. The shot attempts in this game, it was 39-21, I remember, after 2 periods, but it was 58-36 over the course of the game for the Winnipeg Jets. The high danger chances, Connor, were 18-9. The Chicago Blackhawks were not credited with a high danger chance in the first period. So they're up 2-0 after the first period without being credited for a high danger chance. I'm not really sure how that's possible, but that was at even strength. So the power play obviously is a different story. I should mention that was even strength. So, but no, now I'm looking at natural stat trick, and they didn't even give them one on the power play. So I'm not sure, but they were up 2-0 nonetheless. And the Winnipeg Jets still needing the point, go into the second period. And what happens in the second period? It's the Chicago Blackhawks that come out with all the scoring chances. We mentioned it earlier. Ilya Mikheyev, 1 minute into the period. Frank Nazar has that brilliant scoring chance. Connor Hellebuck makes the pad save. And then there's a 2-on-0 with Tyler Bertuzzi and Frank Nazar, and Hellebuck comes up with another big save. So the Winnipeg Jets are up 2-0. And then what happens? The Winnipeg Jets power play comes through. They didn't score early in the power play, but it was Connor Murphy holding the stick on Mason Appleton. Not a penalty you see very often, but the first power play unit is out there, and they had some decent zone time. I believe Mark Scheifele had a scoring chance. I don't know if I wrote it down in the bumper position, but it's Nino Niederreiter. Connor, what did you see on that goal? Because obviously Niederreiter, it was late, as I mentioned, in the power play. He just had a lot of time and space, and it's almost like he said, okay, you're going to give me time and space. I'm going to cock this, and I'm going to get our team on the board here.
Yeah, this was a really nice goal. And how good was Nino Niederreiter tonight? Like, I thought he was one of the Jets' best players throughout the game, truly. And this first goal, and look, Nino Niederreiter is a streaky scorer. He has been his entire career. We've seen it in Winnipeg. He's now got 2 goals in his last 2 games here. He scored the nice deflection goal against Dallas there. And this one was so nice. And credit to Morgan Barron for the screen on this one as well. Spencer Knight and Connor Hellebuck, it was a goaltending duel in the second period. Like, they were making big save after big save. You needed to have a goal. Like, the next goal that was going to be scored was going to be one where the goalie couldn't see it. And Morgan Barron is like 6'4", 240 pounds, standing right in front of Spencer Knight, taking away his vision. And Nino's got a heck of a shot. We know his office is around the net, and he scores a ton of greasy goals on that third line. But every now and then he'll surprise you with his release and his shot. And this was one of those. And it's a reason why he's had so many 20-goal seasons in his career, right? Because he can score in the greasy area, and that's where the bulk of his goals come from. But he can also score a few in the season from far away as well. So credit to Morgan Barron for the screen there, and Nino Niederreiter, heck of a shot, kind of playing it as well, where he's a lefty. Morgan Barron is standing in line with Spencer Knight, and he goes across a glove side, and Spencer Knight can't see it. And the Jets are finally on the board. The goaltenders were incredible up until this point. It was nuts.
Yeah, and one more thing too, just watching the replay here, I forget if it was Frank Nazar or it was Joe Veleno, because Joe Veleno's 90 and Nazar's 91, wearing Sergei Fedorov's old number, among other players. And he just made that subtle move on Veleno to kind of give himself a little bit more of a clear path to the net for the shot. And you're absolutely right, Connor, about Niederreiter being streaky. We know he went, 12 games, 15 games without a goal, and then he's got 2 goals in his last 2 games. And these are nice goals, like you say. I mean, for all the, these big players that are on the third or fourth lines, I mean, yes, they're driving the net, they're going to the net, but they're scoring nice goals. Like, these are not just go to the net, bang in a rebound. Niederreiter's tip in the last game, I mean, that's a high-skilled tip late in the first period that got the Jets on the. Actually, that's 2 games in a row Niederreiter's got the first goal. So those are important goals, because, as we talked about, not only were the Jets down 2 goals after the first period, Chicago had some quality chances early in the second period, and Hellebuck made some big saves. So I think you're right, and good on you for pointing out the good screen by Morgan Barron, who obviously in the third period had a really good scoring chance. And you love to see it, right? Because not only are the Jets getting these wins, but there's really nothing up and down the Jets lineup, I think, that you're concerned about, right? Like, it's not like you're saying, the second line is struggling to produce offense, or the third line is struggling to produce offense, or the fourth line. Jared Anderson-Dolan, like, I made this point on this morning's Saturday IC show, that even with Gabe Vilardi coming back in the lineup, like, you could make an argument that he should be on that fourth line. It's a numbers game. And a guy like Rasmus Kupari, who I think you'd agree has had a good season for the Jets, he's the odd man out. So Jared Anderson-Dolan, it's a good chance that, he's not going to be in the lineup for game one of the playoffs, but we'll see, right? Look, Nikolai Ehlers could be injured, and I'm keeping an eye, nothing yet from Mike McIntyre on X, but I'm keeping an eye on his X feed because obviously McIntyre, a good friend of the show, he is in Chicago at the United Center, and we'll wait and see what he says. Oh, so actually there was something that just came out a few minutes ago. This is verbatim from Mike McIntyre. Scott O'Neill speaking with me here in Chicago. Didn't sound overly concerned about Nick Ehlers. Said it was a re-aggravation of the injury he just returned from. They'll see how he feels tomorrow and no more. So that kind of goes to what you said, Connor, about that. That he could have said week to week, right? Like, it doesn't give us 100% confidence that Ehlers is okay, but he did say, Now that I reread it, I don't actually. I mean, the key thing that I took away though, Connor, is that O'Neill did say he didn't. McIntyre in his tweet says he didn't sound overly concerned.
Yes.
So again, if we're reading between the lines, now we're trying to like play the psychological game and try to read too much into what McIntyre tweeted about Scott O'Neill. But look, McIntyre said that he didn't sound overly concerned. So that's something that we can cling on to, right?
Yeah, we'll take that for sure. Yeah. Well, okay, if it's a re-aggravation of the injury he just had,
that's not good. That's not something you want to hear.
Right. Yes. But let's say he was a game time decision for these games where he didn't play, the 2 games that he didn't play. He took the morning skate ahead of Monday's game against St. Louis, ended up not playing, then was a game time decision against Dallas as well, ended up playing. So I don't know if it's a re-aggravation and it's the same injury and it's not any worse. I think that's a decent sign because Nikolai Ehlers only missed a few games and was a game time decision for them. But yeah, I think obviously stay tuned throughout next week. Nikolai Ehlers definitely won't play tomorrow. If Scott O'Neill is saying we'll know more,
doesn't
tomorrow,
sound like it. No,
we're not going to put him back in. But maybe he'll be an option for Wednesday or maybe even not. Maybe they'll just hold him out to round 1 of the playoffs. Why even risk it? Right?
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah. But
yeah, no, I think you make a good point there. And obviously stay tuned to Winnipeg Sports Talk. You guys are going to be live tomorrow with Liz and Jacob, and stay tuned to legalcurve.com, and we'll keep everybody updated in terms of Nikolai Ehlers' health. It's scary, right? Like when you see him go down, and the thing that is always scary to me is when he needs to be helped off the ice. He wasn't able to skate. But again, we don't know. So it's a big mystery here. We'll hopefully find out more tomorrow. We'll find out very soon if he's going to play. But to your point, I mean, if it's a re-aggravation of an injury and he's still not at 100% or something along those lines, then just keep him out for the next 2 games, get him healthy for the playoffs. That's the most important thing. The Winnipeg Jets obviously really need Nikolai Ehlers to be healthy for the first round of the playoffs, especially with the uncertainty surrounding Gabe Vilardi. I kind of was joking about it with Drew and Dave, and I kind of get the 50-50 feeling with Gabe Vilardi, right? Like it's kind of up in the air as well right now in terms of whether he's going to be back for game 1 of the first round of the playoffs. But let's get back to the play now game recap. So the Jets are now down 1 goal in the second period. And who is the guy that comes through and ties the game up for the Jets? Well, it's Kyle Connor, of course, with his 41st and 95th point of the season. I was saying today on Legal Curve, the Saturday show, I was saying, Connor, boy, it would be nice if he could get up to 100 points. There's a good chance he's rested in one of these last 2 games, but still 95 points, a career high. He's having an excellent season. And this shot, again, is world-class off the post. But we got to mention Alex Iafallo. I forget whose clearing attempt it was. It might have been Ilya Mikheyev, if I'm not mistaken. But the Chicago Blackhawks tried to do the flip out of their own zone, and Alex Iafallo is trying to imitate a volleyball player here because he does his best jumping up at the net impression, takes the puck down, gloves the puck down, gets it over to Kyle Connor, who has some time and space. And it looked like Sam Rinzel's stick might have gotten a little piece of it, I'm not sure. It was hard to tell on the replay, but obviously it goes off the post, beats Spencer Knight, and the Winnipeg Jets are tied up 2-2. And let's be honest, they should have been tied up 2-2 because they had all the momentum. They were generating all the offense at that point in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And Kyle Connor, what a game he had on Thursday night against Dallas. I want to just shout that out because that third period from him was special. And then this one, you can't give Kyle Connor this much time and space. He's going to score. Like this is what he does. He's made a career out of it. He scored 41 goals this year. And yeah, shout out to Alex Iafallo. You talk there about Gabriel Vilardi and the uncertainty there with the playoffs and whether or not he'll be back for game one or maybe the middle of the first round or maybe even into the second round, whatever the case may be. Alex Iafallo has filled in well on that top line. He has the metrics for that line. The underlying numbers have picked up right where they left off with Vilardi. They're scoring goals. He's tenacious on the forecheck, as we know, and he's making skilled plays like this where, obviously, jumping and catching the puck out of the air is not what you're asking any hockey player to do, really, ever. But he makes that play, and then it's the entry into the zone, getting the two Blackhawks defenders to kind of attack him, hitting Kyle Connor with speed in stride with the pass. And Alex Iafallo has filled in very well on that top line. And this goal was another example of what he's done on the top line.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if you guys have talked about it on Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live, or on the regular Winnipeg Sports Talk, your appearances, but sign me up for an IFLO extension. Sign this guy. I realize that, you have to work out the salary cap and everything like that, even though it's going up. But I don't care. Give him, what's he making? $4 million. Give him another $4 million, Connor. He's worth every penny of it. Making nice plays, and like you said, even though they obviously don't have as much of an offensive punch with Iafallo, with Vilardi out of the lineup, I think he's filled in admirably. And if Vilardi isn't ready to go for the first round, I think there's no reason to think Iafallo won't be on that top line.
Yeah.
I think the only question is maybe if Cole Perfetti would jump up to that top line, but I think that would only happen if the Scheifele line was struggling to generate offense, like you said. And going back to your point about Kyle Connor, before we get into the 3-2 goal here, the biggest difference for me has obviously been his defensive play, but also on the penalty kill. I'll admit, I didn't think Kyle Connor was going to be this effective on the penalty kill. I know that it's not that I didn't think he had the ability. I just didn't know if he was going to be able to commit to that role. And he's done an excellent a job when he's been asked to kill penalties. So I think Kyle Connor just, it's tough. You kind of lose, you run out of things to say about him. But he's having the best year of his career. And it's not just the points. The points are the obvious one.
Right.
But it's his commitment to defense. And that bodes well for the Jets with the way Connor's playing. Obviously, he's been criticized sometimes, maybe for not producing enough in the playoffs. And that's going to be something that we're going to hear about Nikolai Ehlers, obviously, as well, right? But we can only focus.
One last thing on Kyle Connor, just to jump in, sorry, is he's having a career year offensively. He's also having a career year defensively.
Yep.
He's having by far the best year of his career, best defensive season of his career. And he has 41 goals, and he has a career high in points. So Kyle Connor, he's not a free agent this offseason. He's a free agent next offseason. But man, he's making himself a lot of money right now, because if he's bringing a more 200-foot all-around game, and it's not coming at the expense of his world-class offense and shooting ability and points and power play production. And he's even added the penalty kill. Like, he's added so many layers to his game this year. And he's just one of the many reasons why this team is first in the Central, first in the West, maybe even first in the league. Has been Kyle Connor not only committing to offense, which he has done every year of his career, but taking a massive leap forward defensively this year.
And also, he was tremendous in the gold medal game for the U.S. Oh, wait. Sorry, I have to bring that up. I'm never going to not bring that up, how ridiculous that is that Kyle Connor didn't play in that game.
Well, how could you play Kyle Connor over a clearly injured Matthew Tkachuk? Like, you just, any chance you have to play an injured Matthew Tkachuk, you just have to do it.
Exactly.
Also, any chance you have to play Chris Kreider in the year 2025,
yep,
you just have to do it. So yeah, what a great decision by the U.S. to scratch a first team all NHL left winger Kyle Connor. Great decision.
I love it. I love it. Obviously, the sarcasm was oozing from Connor there.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get you going, because I still just can't believe that. It's one of those things like you'd think, it's been a couple of months, you're going to forget about it. But I still can't believe that Kyle Connor wasn't playing in that game. The U.S. maybe doesn't win that game, but he at the very least should be in the game, right? So let's continue on here, though. The Winnipeg Jets and the Chicago Blackhawks are tied up after 2 periods, even though the Jets controlled the possession and the shot attempts. We talked about it. The shot attempts were 39-21. And the high danger chances after 2 periods at even strength were 10-5 for the Winnipeg Jets. And then what happens early in the third period? It's the man who has done it so many times for the Winnipeg Jets. It's Josh Morrissey with the point shot. There's some nice traffic in front. And I think, are we going to give this the Seagram shot of the game? What do you think, Connor? Let's do a live Seagram shot of the game conversation. Should we give it to that one, or should we give it to Josh Morrissey's goal that tied it up at 4-4?
I would give it to the tying goal. I thought, okay, this one was a harder shot because this one was a slap shot blasted by him. But the point of the time of the game it came at, the shot, glove side, I'd give it to the tying goal. I don't know. I'd let you overrule it. This is your show, but I'd give it to the tying goal. You're on mute. Hold on.
Thank you. There we go. Sorry, it takes a little time for my sausage fingers to get over there. But I unmuted myself just in time. But no, Connor, that's why I deferred to you. Look, a legal curve without Drew, without Mendel here, it's a cheerocracy. So I go to you and I defer to you. I was close to giving it to Josh Morrissey's first goal, but we'll wait and we'll give it to the second goal. But obviously, just quickly breaking down this goal, because it's not a beautiful goal. It's a shot with traffic in front. But Morrissey's so good at doing that. He's just so good at putting the puck on net when he sees that traffic. And again, this isn't the hardest shot. Like similar to Connor Bedard's power play goal in the first period. This is like, it's not everything on Morrissey here, but he just does it. Puts the puck exactly on net with Perfetti in front and Nemesnikov in front of the net there. And also we should mention, nice work by Vlad Nemesnikov to dig up the puck and get it to Morrissey. It looked like there could have been a tip there, but another look. Josh Morrissey gets his 60th point on the season. Another 60-point, an easy 60-point season for Morrissey again.
Yeah, and this is a huge goal at the time, and I really like the puck support. You brought up Vlad Nemesnikov there. Cole Perfetti, Vlad Nemesnikov, they're fighting away in the corner for this puck, and Nemesnikov's right there supporting the puck, digs it out of the corner, gets it to Josh Morrissey, and this either hits a stick or Spencer Knight's glove or something. I originally thought Niederreiter got it. Me too. Yeah. I thought someone tipped it in front, and then Morrissey went first and in the goal celebration, going down the bench, fist bumping everyone. I thought this was deflected, but then the replay, you could see either it was deflected by a stick or Spencer Knight's glove, one of the two. But still, Josh Morrissey doing what he does, getting shots through. He does a great job of getting shots through. Not all defensemen are good at that, and that is a true skill that he is very good at, and giving the Jets the lead at this time for sure.
Yeah, and I made a note too here. I should mention before that goal was scored, Nemesnikov had a good scoring chance. He was on a 2-on-1 with Niederreiter. So that goes to our point earlier, talking about what makes the Jets the most successful is when they have all 4 lines clicking. I mean, there's going to be some games where you have 1 or 2 lines that maybe aren't playing their best. But when Niederreiter was bumped up to that top line when Ehlers was out of the lineup, I mean, it was a seamless transition. And how many times have we said that this year? And that really, to me, is the secret to the success of the Jets, that they have 3rd and 4th line guys that can go up to the 1st and 2nd lines and obviously don't replace the player exactly like we talked about. Iafallo is not Velarde. Like, he isn't. And he doesn't have that offensive ceiling that Velarde has. But he is able to have an impact and he's able to contribute. Same thing with Niederreiter. Whether it's on the 3rd line or the 2nd line, Niederreiter can be a complementary player to skilled players like Nemesnikov and Perfetti. So just wanted to get that in there, that Nemesnikov had a good scoring chance before that. And then obviously after that, it's Dylan Samberg who takes a penalty. The Jets are able to kill that off. But then it is after the Jets go up 3-2, we know what happened after that. It was Ryan Donato, who is having an incredible season. Like, let's be honest here. I mean, not many people were expecting anything crazy out of Ryan Donato. And as an aside, Connor, speaking about another Connor, we talked about Bedard, who put the Hawks up 2-0. mean, everyone's talking about Connor Bedard not having a good year. He still got 21 goals and 63 points for a 19-year-old who's played with
19.
how many different line mates. Like, this guy is going to be a regular 90 point to 100 guy, 100 point guy. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, he's got that type of skill, especially once he gets some good players. But we do have to mention that on this goal, just what did you see? Because just to quickly break it down, Connor Bedard had the puck. He had the zone entry for the Blackhawks. He made a little kind of pass, a little bit of it wasn't a precise pass over to Ryan Donato. It goes off the boards, and Donato just plays it off of the boards as a one-timer. And obviously it looked like there was a little piece of the stick from Brandon Tanev there. Yeah. And Connor Hellebuck, you could tell, was frustrated because the puck ends up going off of the post. But I think he didn't like the fact that Brandon Tanev's stick deflected it there.
Right. That definitely fooled him for sure. And initially I thought that this was just a terrible goal from Connor Hellebuck. And maybe you can even still argue that. My mind definitely changes a bit after seeing the replay and seeing the deflection of the stick off of Tanev's stick and how the puck kind of reacted to that and how it dipped from the location on the ice that the shot came from. It's definitely still a bad goal, but it makes a little bit more sense when you see the deflection of the stick. And I tweeted out in the moment, you just don't see Connor Hellebuck give goals up from that location, like, ever. So it was a weird one for sure. And a bit of a knuckle puck that fooled Hellebuck. And at a time when the Jets had all the momentum, 3 unanswered goals, that's usually a time of the game where they shut things down. All of a sudden it was tied. And again, when the Jets are up 3-2, all they need is a point. Everyone's probably looking towards, they're going to get the Central Division title. All they need is a point. They're up a goal in the third period. And then it goes 3-3. And then a couple minutes later, Frank Nazar makes it 4-3. And we can dive right into that goal now. But it was like bang, bang, not the Dennis Bayak good.
No, not the good bang, bang, no, Connor. It was the bad bang, bang.
Bad one.
As you mentioned, it looked like the Jets were well on their way just to coasting to a 3-2 lead, a 3-2 win, I should say. And the Blackhawks made it interesting. And, I don't care what anybody says. I think there was a little bit of an extra motivation with Alec Martinez and Patrick Moon. This was literally a retirement game for these guys. So, I mean, what else are these guys playing for? Nothing. So at least they're trying to get a win for the two veterans, right? And as you mentioned, less than 4 minutes later, 4 minutes later, I believe, Frank Nazar, look, I don't want to pick on Logan Stanley. It's not a very good clear. It's kept in at the blue line. And then obviously Tyler Bertuzzi does some nice work. It was, who was it? Who's the other guy on that line? It's Nazar, Bertuzzi, and Teravainen. Teravainen did some nice work kind of just blocking out Logan Stanley, which gave Bertuzzi the opportunity to jump on the puck. And then Bertuzzi obviously makes a nice little pass over to Frank Nazar, who makes no mistake about it. And as you said, now it's 4-3 Chicago with 5 minutes and 55 seconds left in the third period, and they really have no business being ahead. What were your thoughts on that goal? Because obviously that's what stood out to me. It was just it was a pretty weak clearing attempt by Stanley.
Yeah. Well, when the Jets were up 3-2, I was like, oh, they're going to clinch the Central. And then they went down 4-3, and I was checking the standings just to make sure they clinched in the first place. I was like, no, they're going to miss the playoffs. No, I'm kidding. Frank Nazar is also going to be very, very good in division for a long time. I loved the way he played tonight. Obviously got this goal. But yeah, the Stanley Shen pairing, I had concerns about it coming into the Dallas game. And I'm giving them credit. They played well against Dallas. And Murat Atesh from The Athletic, who you guys have had on A Legal Curve many times, wrote in his article the next day that Scott O'Neill did a good job keeping those two away from Dallas's top line, but still against Dallas's non-top line players. I thought Stanley and Shed managed their minutes well, and they did what the Jets were asking of them of a third line. Tonight, they were on the ice for that 2-on-0 that Hellebuck made the big save, and you saw the lack of foot speed in that instance. On this goal, I don't really think, it is poor puck management. I'm not going to put it on Stanley because when the puck comes back down the wall, he's not even really, like, he's kind of taking out Teravainen and doesn't even know that the puck came back down the wall. The way it ended up a 2-on-1 was really weird to me. And then, obviously Shen is in a 2-on-1, doesn't really take either, and Nazar fires home the one-timer. But I thought the Stanley Shen pairing was great on Thursday for what the Jets are asking out of their third pair. Not as much tonight. And we'll see if the Jets try something out or if that's what they're going into game 1 of the playoffs with.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys are going to be talking about this on Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live tomorrow, right, with Listen and Jacob. Like your options are limited in terms of what you can do, right? I think you'd agree. Like Luke Schen's not coming out of the lineup.
No.
It would be Logan Stanley who would be coming out of the lineup. And are you playing Colin Miller on the left side? Like
I am.
You know, I think if it's between Colin Miller on his offside and Logan Stanley, I'm with you. I'm going with Colin Miller on his offside. Logan Stanley obviously has played the majority of the season as the Jets' third pairing left side defenseman.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, Connor, you're not worried about that line when they're up against other teams' third and fourth lines. But when you're up against, and look, Frank Nazar, he's obviously, had his ups and downs in his rookie season. But this is a skilled player, a high draft pick. And those are the types of players that you're worried about with a little bit lack of foot speed. Those guys, especially Logan Stanley, can cough up the puck every once in a while. So it's something to keep an eye on. If there's one weakness on the Jets right now, and I say that very carefully, I think Logan Stanley has improved this year for sure. I think he's playing better hockey as of late than he was earlier in the season when it seemed like he was making a turnover every single game. And I think Luke Schenn, since he was acquired from the Penguins, has really fit in nicely. He obviously was playing on the second pair when Pionk was out of the lineup, right? So I think Luke Schenn has done a nice job. But yeah, I think you're getting a little bit concerned more so when you get into the later rounds. Like if you're going up against Colorado in the second round, who's obviously a very deep team, then you get a little bit more worried about Stanley and Schenn. But there's always the chance that we're going to see Colin Miller. What I said when Luke, sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, Connor, but when Luke Schenn was acquired, I made the point that when he won the Stanley Cups with the Tampa Bay Lightning, he was that 6/7th defenseman, right, with Zach Bogosian, right? So there's always the chance that you see that kind of on the third pair, whether that's Logan Stanley, whether that's Luke Schenn coming in and out of the lineup, depending on where they're playing. But yeah, we can agree that this 4-3 goal was an ugly goal, and thankfully the Jets came back and tied the game up, which we'll get into in a second. But that's one thing that you could point to and you could say, okay, I'm not too sure about Stanley and Schenn going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think those concerns were there at the deadline when they added Luke Schenn, and it was like, well, he's a right shot defenseman. So what's going to happen here? Who's he going to play with on the third pair? And I thought Luke Schenn has been great as a Winnipeg Jet since they brought him in from the deadline, being physical, doing what is asked of him, clearing shot lanes so that Connor Hellebuyck can see, good penalty killer. I'd like to see over these last two games here, Colin Miller playing on his offside with Luke Schenn. That is an option that the Jets can do in the last two games. At worst, you're resting Logan Stanley, who I guess the plan right now is to play him game 1 of the playoffs. But I'd like to see it just to see how much he struggles, because I agree with you. Like looking ahead, if the Jets were to play the Avs in the second round, like Stanley and Schenn would get skated out of the rink. Like the Avs are one of the fastest teams in the NHL, and Scott O'Neill can do what he can to keep those guys away from Nathan McKinnon. But man, that scares me for sure. And Colin Miller, I thought even before getting taken out of the lineup, was really solid. He had goals in a few games. I thought he had been playing some of his best hockey of the season. So these last two games here, nothing against how Stanley and Schenn have played in these two games. Like I said, in the Jets' biggest game, maybe in their franchise history in the regular season on Thursday, I thought they managed their minutes well as a third pair. I'd still like to see Colin Miller as the third pair lefty in the final two games here.
Yeah. And I don't think we're alone. I think a lot of observers, a lot of fans feel the same way, that you have to find a way to have Colin Miller in your top six. And I think there's only one thing that's guaranteed, Connor, and it's for the Winnipeg Jets in their playoff run. They're going to have to use more than 6 defensemen. We know if they're going to be going on a long playoff run, they're most likely going to be using 8 or 9 defensemen with injuries and matchups and everything like that. Before we get into the tying goal by Josh Morrissey, we have over 400 people watching live on YouTube. We've got about, let me check here, 430 people watching live. So smash that like button. We appreciate it. And as we talked about before, who comes up with the tying goal for the Winnipeg Jets? Nobody should be surprised. It's Josh Morrissey, and we are going to give him this, Connor, tonight.
The Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game is obviously brought to you by our friends at Seagram's. Enjoy responsibly. And should mention before we get into the blast from Josh Morrissey, just some great work by the Scheifele line here. They had they had the Blackhawks hemmed in their own zone. Kyle Connor was dancing. Like the Blackhawks were out there. They were stuck out there, and Kyle Connor was doing his thing. And it's a nice pass by Dylan DeMello, who sees that Josh Morrissey is pinching, he's streaking, and it's just a beautiful goal by Morrissey. I'll let you continue, Connor.
No, I agree. Like this shift was awesome from the Jets, and this is exactly the response you want to see when things are going terribly for the Jets at this time, right? You give up the 2 quick goals, you're down 4-3. This is the moment where you need a shift like this from your best players to get you back into the game. And they delivered. There's 5 minutes left in the game. You're down a goal. The Scheifele line is out there. Josh Morrissey's out there. And they spend a full minute and a half in the offensive zone. And Josh Morrissey, the instincts to jump behind the Chicago Blackhawks forward, who's kind of cheating up at the blue line, looking for that D-to-D pass, looking to jump it. And he slides right behind. It's a very instinctual play from Josh Morrissey, who had his own rough moments in this game. I mean, he had the turnover in the second period or third period where it just went right into the middle of the ice.
Was it Mikheyev maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Or Maroon maybe had the look. I don't know, but he had his moments in this night too. But the third period, he absolutely put the team on his back with the 2 goals. And this one with, I don't know, what was it? 2.5, 3 minutes remaining. Very, very clutch from Josh Morrissey. And I was hoping he'd get the hat trick in overtime, but not quite.
Yeah, no, I texted you. I was hoping Kyle Connor would get it. Cause like I said before, I'm some people don't care about this stuff, but I was hoping Kyle Connor would get a little closer to 100 points, and we'll see if he plays the last 2 games. I don't think, Connor, you would be surprised if Kyle Connor, again, I have to make sure it's clear what Connor I'm talking about here. You wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Connor gets a rest in one of these last 2 games. Just to go over the stat line for Josh Morrissey tonight, and obviously the ice time is going to be a little bit higher with the overtime. 28 minutes and 32 seconds of ice time. He had 4 shots on net, 1 block, 2 hits. He had a giveaway, as we mentioned, and a takeaway. But the most important thing, 2 goals in the game for Josh Morrissey, and he was a +2. So just another monster game for Morrissey. You know that he's going to be depended on in the playoffs. He's going to be playing 25+ minutes a night. Let's get into the overtime. We should mention, before this game goes to overtime, Frank Nazar has a chance with... Was that in the overtime or no? That was in the third period. Was it? No, that was
like late in the third, like 7
seconds. Yeah, it was. Okay, for a second there, I had to check. I had to check myself there, Connor.
No,
Frank Nazar almost wins it because I texted you. I'm not sure if at one point I was like, I wonder if Connor's liking the amount of text I'm sending him.
Oh yeah,
because during Jets games, I send Drew and Dave a lot of text sometimes, and oftentimes they just don't respond, and then it ends up just
Jacob all the time too.
Yeah, I'm fired up. This was a big game, not as big as the Dallas game, but they needed the point to clinch the division and the conference. So I appreciate you texting me back and playing along with me. But that overtime, I mean, I think you'd agree it was controlled by the Jets. The Hawks, like, they kind of just looked like a little bit sloppy, a little bit disjointed. Adam Lowry had a good scoring chance, but what I wanted to mention to you was, we've mentioned his name several times tonight on the Blackhawks. Ilya Mikheyev has a glorious opportunity late in the overtime, and Josh Morrissey, that's to me what stood out to me in that overtime was he blocks it with his skate, and he just, the thing is, like, number 44 just can do it all. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it was at the end of a long shift too. He was out there a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Slides across, blocks it with his skate. An incredible play by Morrissey. I want to give another shout out to Nino Niederreiter, who he hasn't played much in overtime this year. At least that's mentally, I don't remember him playing much overtime this year. And I thought had a few really strong chances in overtime, especially the one where he had, the chance to step across the crease, and Spencer Knight gets the right pad over, and Nino Niederreiter almost ended it. But yeah, a highly entertaining overtime. And I have to say it was almost like picture perfect, because the Jets clinched the division with the point for it going to overtime anyways. Right. So like that's out of the equation. It's like they got the division, and then the overtime was just fun and chaotic and chances galore. And it was fun. And then obviously we get into the shootout, and The two goals that's were
So we're not going to dissect every shot in the shootout, obviously, but considering we're both two guys that don't love the shootout, but this was an exciting one. And watching this, and you're saying, okay, the point doesn't matter, but it still does matter in the sense that they're going for the President's Trophy. I still remind everyone about that. So it's funny, this time of year, you think, oh, it's just about clinching. The Jets clinched a playoff spot a long time ago. Now they've Central, and whether or not you think there's a curse or whether you think it's a big deal, the Jets are still trying to win that President's Trophy. I don't care what anybody says. I don't have that from anybody in the Jets organization, but I still think they want that banner. So obviously the point did matter in that sense. So Connor Bedard scores for Chicago, a nice little goal that really, I think, stymied Connor Hellebuck. Yeah. But then Kyle Connor comes back after Mark Scheifele doesn't score on his attempt. Wow. Like, Kyle Connor just, I mean, that must have been embarrassing for Spencer Knight, because he goes in there and he just kind of flicks a shot top corner on Spencer Knight and ties it up for the Jets. And then Cole Perfetti with just an unbelievable move to win it. The Jets, as we mentioned, 55 wins on the season. They have clinched the Central Division. They are Western Conference champions for the 24-25 season. And all that's left to do, Connor, in the regular season is play the Edmonton Oilers tomorrow and then the Anaheim Ducks on Wednesday. And all that's left to do, as we talked about, is wrap up that President's Trophy for the first time in franchise history.
And that would be so cool to raise that banner in Canada Life Center, right? What an accomplishment for these players and this organization. And Scott Arniel, his first season as a head coach, is coaching a President's Trophy winning team, or like close to clinching the President's Trophy winning team. So what a year it's been for the Jets. Just back to that shootout for a second. Kyle Connor seems like he makes it look easier every time he goes up in a shootout and scores. And look, how many players would attempt that little flick and a goalie would just blocker it away and just make it look easy, because it's like, what are you doing? But no, Kyle Connor has the deceptive shot ability to beat Spencer Knight in that situation. And then the Cole Perfetti goal, that is just absolutely filthy. Watching it in slow-mo, he dekes to the forehand and then pulls it back, and you can see Spencer Knight's pads are closed, and then Cole Perfetti, just as he goes to slide at 5-hole, Spencer Knight is stretching back out. So like Cole Perfetti was one step ahead of that entire interaction with Spencer Knight in his shootout attempt. And that was a beautiful thing. His first ever shootout attempt. I want that guy in the shootout every time. This is going forward.
Yeah, you love to see it. You just don't see the Jets in shootouts very often, right?
Never.
Like,
yeah.
So that's what's weird about it. It's like, okay, after overtimes, it's like, what can we expect here? We don't even know. Like, it's like, I didn't realize that was Cole Perfetti's first ever shootout attempt. I didn't know if you did. Dave Minuk of Legal Curve, he mentioned that on X. Thank you, Dave, who's currently at his Passover Seder. So shout out to Dave, shout out to Drew. As we mentioned, if you're just joining us now, happy Passover. There's over 400 people watching live on YouTube. And just a reminder before we head to break, make sure you check out Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live with Connor, with Liz Hood, and with Jacob Stoller. They're going to be live tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And you guys have a special guest tomorrow as well, right?
Well, okay, so this is what's happening. We are going to have Dmitry Filipovich on, but he's not going to be joining us live. So we're going to be recording that video during the day Sunday before the game. And then we're going to release that as like a bonus WST Sunday Live content piece on Monday. So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
But yes, we're interviewing Dmitry Filipovich. I'm super stoked. Love the Hockey PDO cast. And stay tuned for that video Monday. But like you said, tune in tomorrow, Sunday at 9 a.m.
Okay, right on. So we're going to head to break now. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about the game, obviously. We'll preview the game between the Jets and the Oilers tomorrow a little bit. We're already running well over an hour here, and Connor's a young man, and he has better things to do with his time. He has people to talk to and things to do. But we'll head to break, and we'll also touch on Nikolai Ehlers a little bit. Not a lot of a revealing comments from Scott Arniel to Mike McIntyre, but for those who just joined us, we'll maybe mention that again and then just quickly wrap it up here. So we'll head to break. Stay tuned. Lots more to come on the Illegal Curve postgame show.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling sites instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
or bet with Play Now.
Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show, a special Passover edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. It's just past 10 o'clock. It's Ezzy Ginsburg. It's Connor Harabchuk filling in for Drew Mandel and Dave Manouk. Drew will be back tomorrow. Dave has a second Seder. For those who aren't familiar, some families do 2 Seders, some families do 1 Seder. Many families do 2 Seders. So Dave M will not be on the show tomorrow, but Drew Mandel will be back, of course. I guess I'll let him host again, Connor. I mean, I think I've done a pretty phenomenal job, so maybe I'll host again tomorrow, even with Drew back.
Yeah, just let him know that the show is fine without him. Yeah,
exactly.
He'll host.
No, I always give him a hard time. I mean, you host Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live. I'm definitely better being a guy who you throw to. So hosting's hard because you have all these responsibilities, sponsor reads, you have to go to commercial break, everything like that. So I always like being the guy that can sit back and kind of be the funny guy.
I'll let you know you're doing a great job as hosting. For sure.
I appreciate it, Connor. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you filling in as you have, I believe this is your 3rd post-game show of the year. If I'm not mistaken, 3rd or 4th?
3rd or 4th, maybe?
Yeah.
4th? Yeah,
I remember
I've done a few from the rink.
Yes.
I know that for sure because obviously I cover the games there up in the press box, and then I just hop on the post-game show right after. But yeah, 4th maybe? 4th?
Yeah. And we'll go with 4, and even if it's right or wrong, and make sure that you check out Connor's next day takeaways on illegalcurve.com. Check out all of his work for Winnipeg Sports Talk. You're doing a phenomenal job. As I've told you so many times, and I told Liz when she did the post-game show with me, that was back in, I think, November. I remember the Jets lost to the Florida Panthers on the road 5-0. I've told you, and I've told Liz, and I think I've told Jacob, you guys are the young guns of Winnipeg sports media. So absolutely look out. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. And quickly, we'll wrap up here because we're at about an hour and 9 minutes here. We'll mention, for those who are just joining us who didn't hear this earlier, Nikolai Ehlers obviously left the game in the second period after colliding with the linesman. He had to be helped off the ice. This is what Mike McIntyre tweeted out about 40 minutes ago. Scott Arneal, speaking with me here in Chicago just now, didn't sound overly concerned about Nikolai Ehlers, said it was a re-aggravation of the injury he just returned from. They'll see how he feels tomorrow. and no more. And I agree with what you said earlier, Connor. If I was a betting man, I don't think Ehlers is going to play against Edmonton tomorrow. But the big thing is he going to be healthy for Wednesday's game against Anaheim and the first game of round one of the playoffs? So obviously there's going to be a lot of Jets fans that will have their fingers crossed, hoping that Ehlers is going to be okay.
Yeah, he has such a big impact on this team. And I think we're at the point of the season where if Nikolai Ehlers doesn't play the next 2 games and he goes into game 1 a little bit rusty because he hasn't played in over a week, so be it. You'd rather have him there and rusty than hurt, right? So I'll say it right now. I think there's a close to 0% chance that he plays tomorrow, especially if they're going to know more tomorrow about the injury. They're going to rest some players tomorrow. Why wouldn't Nikolai Ehlers be one of them, especially since he got hurt here? And you hope that it's not serious enough that in 7 days here when the playoffs start, 7 or 8, depending on if you think a concert is going to get moved, Nikolai Ehlers is hopefully in the lineup for the Winnipeg Jets and having a big impact on that second line.
Absolutely. And just to wrap up tomorrow, tonight's post-game show tomorrow, the Jets and Oilers, another 6 o'clock Central start. So make sure you come back to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel around 8:45 tonight. Tomorrow night for the post-game show. One thing I wanted to get your take on, Connor, before we wrap up.
Yes.
Matthias Ekholm, it was talked about by Elliot Friedman during Saturday headlines. I mean, also we should mention Zach Hyman left the Oilers last game. So there's for sure going to be no Matthias Ekholm in the lineup tomorrow night in Winnipeg. Maybe no Zach Hyman. I believe Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are going to be playing. I think
Draisaitl, I don't know. Draisaitl hasn't come back yet. So
right. So there might be no Draisaitl, Hyman, or Ekholm, and it looks like there's a good chance Ekholm might miss some significant time here.
Yeah, and I was watching the game Friday night against the Sharks that the Oilers were playing, and their list of injuries right now is crazy. Their deadline acquisition, Jake Wallman's out of the lineup. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is out of the lineup. Leon Draisaitl's out. Matthias Ekholm got hurt. Zach Hyman got hurt, left the game. Evander Kane hasn't played all season long. Well, I guess you don't really throw him in that mix because he hasn't played all season. But Connor McDavid was hurt. He just came back. Feels like he's on his own. So it's going to be a really interesting game tomorrow to see who's in the lineup. We know Matthias Ekholm won't be because they think that injury was serious and it looked very fluky. I mean, it was like 2 minutes into the first period and he had to leave the game. 2 minutes of his time on ice. And yeah, I mean, the Oilers are bruised. If you're one of those people who thinks this is the year for LA, I think you have a very strong argument. I think LA gets it done this year simply because the Oilers are too hurt. Yeah. And yeah, it's the lineup tomorrow is going to be a lot different from what we usually see out of the Edmonton Oilers. It's going to be a lot of who's their AHL team, the Bakersfield Condors. Yeah,
yes. I was going to say it's going to be
Condors versus
part Jets
tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be a hybrid game.
Yeah,
for sure. There's definitely going to be two guys, and we'll find out hopefully more about Nick Ehlers tomorrow, and we'll find out. I didn't even mention Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I don't follow the Oilers obviously as much. But these are significant players. These are top players, top defensemen, top forwards. So obviously not good for the Oilers. And I was already going to pick the Kings even before all these injuries happened in that series. I realized the Oilers have dominated the Kings in the first round the last 3 years. But with all these injuries, I'm with you, Connor. I mean, Connor McDavid can only do so much, right? Like
another Connor.
Yes, another. There's so many of them. They're omnipresent. But yeah, I mean, the Oilers will see if they can overcome some of these injuries, but there's no doubt they're going to be without some of their regular stars in the lineup tomorrow against the Jets. Reminder, a Legal Curve post-game show somewhere around 8:40, 8:45, depending on if the game goes to overtime. And a final reminder, going to give the Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live crew another plug. Make sure you listen to their show every Sunday with Liz Hood and Jacob Stoller. Connor, final thank you for pitching in here on a special Passover edition of the Illegal Curve postgame show. The Winnipeg Jets defeat the Chicago Blackhawks by a score of 5-4. Cole Perfetti is the hero in the shootout. The Winnipeg Jets clinch the Central Division title, and they are Western Conference champions. We'll wait and see if they claim the President's Trophy. They can do so with a win over the Edmonton Oilers tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Take care. We will be back here. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.